Fentale, a volcano in Ethiopia, in an area where you can basically say that Africa is being ripped into two pieces. And unfortunately, guys, we have to talk about this volcano again. You might have seen my previous video about what's going on there. And Eddie's growling, as you can hear. He's worried too. And guys, I would say let's grab a coffee and let's talk about this, because some things have happened again that are very concerning. And I want to start out with some of my viewers that are actually in Ethiopia. So thanks, guys. It's amazing that I have viewers that actually live in that area and that you comment and give me some input about what's going on. So let's start out with one comment under my previous video, and that is from Kia. And the comment starts out, "Thank you for the information, Silky. I am from Ethiopia. The government did not understand the impact of the volcanic activity and the earthquakes that just happened. They're just sitting doing their ordinary job. They don't care about the people that live there. I hope that international help will come to help with an evacuation or an evacuation plan and monitor the situation. The government doesn't care." This relates to my last video. This volcano is not monitored, like, for example, Campi Flegrei in Italy. I'm reporting a lot about that if you're new to my channel. And also Iceland, we have volcanic eruptions there on a regular basis, and they're really, really good monitored. And there's seismologists, geologists, volcanologists monitoring the situation basically 24/7. But we don't have almost no data from Fantale. The last thing we had is basically a satellite picture where we could see that the land is rising. And that was concerning because it came with rumbling and it came with earthquakes. So it is very, very hard to really get information about what is really going on there, because there are people living close by to that volcano, and it seems they don't have much information or are aware that they might have to evacuate. And with that rumbling that was happening recently there cracks have opened in the earth, like roads and bridges have been damaged already and some other structures. And you see some pictures here from the cracks that have opened. And I said it in my last video, if you're a regular viewer, you have seen cracks like this before that were opening during an earthquake swarm before an actual eruption happened. And that was in Iceland. A whole town Grindavik was basically destroyed, very damaged by these cracks and fissures that opened. And that's why I said in my last video, I see some similarities here. Not the same volcanic kind of systems in a way, but the rumbling, the cracks that are opening, infrastructure damaged, same thing. So it's something to take serious. So after what happened at Fentale, some scientists said, well, it looks like the land rise, that it's subsiding a little bit, and they were suspecting, did we see a magma intrusion? So not an eruption. It's called magma intrusion if there's a magma chamber and the magma tries to break out, tries to get to the surface, but then there is too much resistance in the caprock layer, or it's going horizontal and it doesn't break through and it doesn't cause an eruption. We had that about a year ago on November 10th in Iceland. But then after that intrusion, yeah, there is a short period of subsidence, but then the rumbling and the land rise started right away, and then we saw eruptions. So this doesn't mean here in Ethiopia that we're out of the woods with Fentale, and something happened just in the last few days and today that is very concerning because the rumbling continues. And now the interesting part is what's happening with the land rise. And since this is so sparsely monitored, it's very, very hard to get enough really scientific information and data about this. There's more reports from people that felt these earthquakes and they were stronger. So let's talk about those before we go into more depth about Fentale and what's happening nearby and underneath. Okay, guys, we had earthquakes in this area. We also have the capital of Ethiopia there, Addis Ababa. So this is an area that is surrounding the Fentale volcano. And the earthquakes and the cracks in that didn't happen directly in the crater of Fentale. It happened around Fentale. So what's going on? What could happen there? Could we see some fissure eruptions, or what's going on? So let's talk about October 26th. There was a 4.7 magnitude earthquake at a depth of 10 kilometers. And then on October 26th as well, just a minute later, there was a 4.8 magnitude earthquake, also at a depth of 10 kilometers. Both happened at a distance of roughly 7.7 miles away from the main crater of Fantale. And that's 12 kilometers. And then just today on November 1st, we had another 4.6 at a depth of 12 kilometers. And that was about 10.9 miles to the east of the Fentale volcano. That's roughly 18 kilometers. And that's the thing, what scientists are trying to figure out. Why is it rumbling around it? Could we have some breakouts there? Similar maybe to what is happening in Iceland. And that's why they're also concerned about these fissures that are opening in these areas. And there's people living there and they have no clue what is going on. So there's not a broad information activity from the government or public available evacuation plans or anything like this, what they're trying in Italy at Campi Flegrei right now, for example, or it's not in any way organized like it is in Iceland at the moment. Iceland got caught by surprise by the November 10th intrusion, but after that, they were on it. I don't see for now that the government is on it, and I'm a little bit surprised that we're not hearing more from international scientists, because if you study volcanoes and if this is your area, you got to take the chance of every new mysterious thing that is happening to learn more, to observe, to gather as many data as possible. Because let's say we will see an eruption at Fentale, then they haven't recorded all the data, the land rise, the rumbling, what was happening where, that could give them further clues for future eruptions at Fentale or anywhere else, that they could say, hey, this happened, plus this happened, plus this happened, and then we saw an eruption. We know that in Iceland. We have a land rise that's happening. We can calculate how much magma is in the magma chamber that's underneath, and then we know if we see a rumbling, an earthquake swarm, we know eruption is coming, and we know the land is rising to that amount, we can think the next eruption is coming. They need to learn so much about these volcanoes because they know so little. So I'm surprised that there's not more reports from international teams, international aid that would put up seismographs or monitoring stations to really see what is going on, to be able to record these valuable data. So I really hope that this is going to happen anytime soon. So because anything that's over 4 related with volcanoes, you have to pay attention to that. And it's also been felt by people in the area. And there are a few reports about it. So in the capital, Addis Ababa, that's about 145 kilometers away from the epicenter, it was reported like weak shaking, they said, horizontal swaying for several seconds. Water in still pitchers is moving. I'm on the 6th floor of a building with 7 floors. And then another one, also 148 kilometers west of the epicenter on November 1st, shaking, horizontal, sideways swinging, 2 to 5 seconds. I was in my bed and I felt the bed moving horizontally. And another one says, I felt the couch moving. And that was also in the capital. And then another shaking that was felt was in Oromia, 46 kilometers southeast of the epicenter. And there's many reports. One is interesting. They said complex motion that we felt. It was difficult to describe, that they couldn't even say more. And then there's some reports 150 kilometers from the epicenter, also from the capital. They said we didn't feel it. Then another one, very weak shaking. Then one says near the capital, 134 kilometers west of the epicenter, simple rolling, tilting sideways along one direction. And then also in the capital, all say swinging, shaking sideways. And in the Awash area, that is only 5.2 miles east of the epicenter, 8.4 kilometers, they also felt the shaking. So people are feeling these magnitude over 4, 4.7, 4.8. They're feeling these earthquakes, and the earthquakes have drawn attention because they are part of a broader seismic and volcanic activity along the East African rift. And you see it here on that map where that rift is going. That is basically a major tectonic boundary. That is a major tectonic boundary where Africa's continental plates are slowly pulling apart. Same situation that we have in Iceland. It's pulling apart, and along that rift zone we see many earthquakes and many volcanoes, because by this pulling apart it makes room for magma to come up. So the East African rift is one of the few places on land where a continental rifting is actively taking place, and that's why it's so interesting. So they're estimating that in millions of years Africa is going to be two parts, creating a new ocean, but not in our lifetime, that's definitely sure. So this immense geological feature extends basically from the Red Sea through East Africa, and it's definitely shaping Ethiopia's unique and active landscape. Especially in Ethiopia, we have two tectonic plates, the Nubian plate and the Somali plates, and they're gradually moving away from each other. And this process, of course, we're talking about crust and earth and rocks and caprock layers. This process stretches and fractures the Earth's crust, and creating, by doing that, space for the magma to rise closer to the surface, because these are not surface cracks. As we said, it's like continental plates pulling apart from each other, very deep. That's why the magma can come up through these rifts, through these fractures. So over millions of years, this movement could lead to a new ocean, as I just mentioned, and eventually splitting East Africa from the main continent. So this rifting process, as it's happening, brings heightened volcanic and seismic activity to the area, and we have seen this in the recent month around Ethiopia's Fentale Volcano and the Dauphin volcanoes. You see them here on the map. Fantale in particular is a prominent stratovolcano located within the Awash Valley, where we just learned they felt the earthquakes. And a stratovolcano is basically what we think of a classical volcano, like this cone-shaped mountain that really visibly looks like a volcano. And Fantale's history is marked with very, very powerful eruptions, guys. So we have to take this volcano serious. It's not that this is some teeny tiny thing. This volcano is rising over 2,000 meters, and it has a summit caldera that you see here in that picture that has been formed by a very explosive eruption that they think likely took place around the early 19th century. That's how this caldera was formed. So during this eruption at Fentale, the volcano's magma chamber that was underneath has emptied out. So suddenly, if there's a hollow space underneath, that structure has collapsed. And that has created, this collapse has created the massive crater that is over 6 kilometers wide. And Eddie and Rudi are having a growling conversation behind me. Eddie is in a bad mood because Rudi has eaten one of his treats and that Eddie wanted. So sorry for the occasional weird sound that you hear in the background. So a 6 kilometer wide crater, that's a massive thing, and at a height of 2,000 meters. So today, this structure, this caldera still dominates the landscape in this area, reminding people to not forget about Fentale's explosive past. But since it's not erupting on a regular basis, it hasn't reminded people of its power just recently. So are they really aware about the risk? And we see, if we look at the slopes of Fantale, they're dotted with lava flows from past eruptions, and there's also smaller volcanic cones. All that is telling us, is showing us how active this area has been for over thousands of years. And is it waking up now? We heard scientists say the situation at Fentale is accelerating rapidly, if you have seen my last video. So it's something that I think with urgent monitoring should be explored ASAP, because the recent activity that we are seeing there right now gives us hints that this activity may not be confined to the past. Because since early September 2024, so just a few weeks ago, scientists have observed unusual ground deformation in the area. And we have seen this one satellite picture. The satellite data show that there has been a ground uplift of up to 30 centimeters, so that much, across several kilometers. Not in a 1 square kilometer area or 1 square mile, no, several kilometers, several miles, a larger area. So how large is this magma chamber that is filling up underneath? Because a land is only rising if something's going on underneath, if something's rising to the surface. And usually we have a deeper magma reservoir, which is feeding some more shallow magma chambers, and when they're expanding, it's like you're blowing up a balloon. The crust, the soil on top of it, of course it's being lifted up, it's being stretched, but you can only stretch it that far. These magma chambers can reach their point of maximum elasticity, like a balloon. I can only put that much air into a balloon until it will blast. And when the magma chamber reaches that blasting point, it sends magma on the way. And then there's pressure, and that magma tries to reach the surface. If it reaches the surface, there's an eruption. It comes out as lava. If it doesn't reach the surface and stays underground and it's traveling there, it's an intrusion. So this 30 centimeter land rise across several kilometers is a clear sign, guys, that magma is moving. And I think I need another sip of coffee here. Thanks, by the way, for supporting my channel on my buymeacoffee.com website for buying me the coffees there. Guys, it helps a lot to keep me going, especially since the winter's coming. Magma's moving and it's causing pressure beneath the surface. And along with this uplift, of course, that's why we're seeing these cracks that you're seeing here in these pictures. These are the actual cracks in Ethiopia that have happened in the Awash Valley, not really directly on the craters. So that's a little bit also what makes scientists scratch their head. Some of these cracks have also started to release something, steam and hot water. And if you see the video here behind me, they had a hydrothermal explosion like we've recently seen in Yellowstone. So something really happened and people were stunned, like, whoa, what is this, right? So there's geothermal activity in this area. And then we look at this geothermal activity, the cracks, the land rise combined with these frequent earthquakes, it indicates that the magma is intruding higher. It's coming higher into the crust. Now the question is the crust weakened enough that the magma can come to the surface? Because that intruding into the crust is setting the stage for a future volcanic activity, speaking an eruption. So when we saw these earthquakes that started on October 26th and with just one today, they are the most powerful earthquakes in a series of earthquakes that have shaken this region in the recent weeks. So they're getting stronger. So these quakes are basically all centered between Fentale and the Dauphin volcanic system. It's roughly 20 to 30 kilometers apart. So these earthquakes, along with this observed ground deformation, have raised concerns about a possible fissure eruption, something that we've seen in Hawaii and something that we're constantly seeing in Iceland, because it seems it's not erupting from the craters, it's erupting between the two volcanoes. The fissure eruption is a type of eruption that occurs when magma escapes through long cracks that are happening underneath or fissures in the Earth's surface. Fissure eruptions are nothing unusual. They're characteristic of rift zones like the East African Rift, where these tectonic plates are moving apart. They're cracking everything, right? And that's why this rifting apart along this long rift line, that's creating conditions for magma to rise up in very long channels, in elongated channels, rather than through only a single volcanic vent. And the problem is that these fissure eruptions can cover extensive areas of land with lava. We have seen this in Iceland with the last eruption. So a lot of area was covered, and that's dangerous if it's flowing towards infrastructure, towards settlements and stuff like this. We have seen in Iceland that rifting, it has created fissures that were stretching over 25 kilometers, almost 20 miles. And these lava flows that were coming out from there have blanketed very, very large areas. So let's say here in Ethiopia, in that area, let's say we have a fissure eruption, and then that observed magma that's intruding into the surface progresses to the surface and causes an eruption. It could produce a fissure that is also several miles long, possibly extending up to 8-9 miles. I mean, they don't know, it could be even longer. But the size and the scale of any potential eruption that could happen in this area would depend on the size of the magma chamber that's underneath the crust. How much magma is in there? And is it being refed by a deeper lying magma reservoir like in Iceland? It's constantly coming up from the surface. It's being refed. So reaches maximum point of elasticity, boof, sends the magma on its way. We see an eruption. It refills, boof, next eruption. So we don't know here. They need to observe this. So how much magma is there? And how much pressure is it putting on the crust? So for the people that live in this region where this is happening, it's in the Awash area and in the Oromia region. I don't know if I pronounced that right. For my viewers from Ethiopia, you're welcome to correct me, help me out with this. So for people in these regions, the recent developments are deeply concerning, because as you heard from my viewer, and I have comments from another viewer, they're concerned, but they're not well informed what to do. Where are the risk areas? What should they do? That region is home to thousands of people. There's many people that depend on agriculture and livestock for their livelihoods. So if there was a fissure eruption that would destroy the land, and also further seismic activity that would severely impact these communities. We're dealing with more people here than we're dealing in Iceland. And Iceland basically was the town of Grindavik, roughly a little bit under 4,000 people that had to be evacuated. But we're talking about way more people here. These lava flows, the ground cracks, these gas emissions that we're seeing, they could damage the agricultural fields, the roads, the homes, disrupting daily life and local economies. We have seen it in that little town in Grindavik already, where they had fish processing plants. Everything has come to a halt almost for over a year. And of course, and that's what's happening in Italy. At Campi Flegrei, these frequent tremors are very likely to cause a high level of anxiety among the residents, because even minor earthquakes can weaken buildings and create new hazards. And we don't know how structurally safe these buildings are. Maybe in the capital a little better, but in the rural areas, probably not that much. And then it's already felt in the capital. So that's why we always have to be aware that the effects of this activity could extend beyond the Oromia Awash area to Addis Ababa, the capital and the most populated city in Ethiopia. And they're feeling the tremors already. So continued seismic and volcanic activity could severely impact the capital's infrastructure, especially if larger earthquakes are occurring, or let's say we have an eruption and volcanic ash would reach the city. Of course, the risks to the capital are lower than the risk that we have in the immediate rift area. But the capital's proximity to this active volcanic area means that it would likely experience at least indirect impacts from any major eruption in this rift zone. And even let's say that magma that is currently accumulating in the crust underneath the caprock layer, let's say the magma will not erupt, it will stay there as an intrusion. The movement of that magma could still have significant consequences for the area. Subsurface magma can trigger earthquakes because it's grinding like a miner. A miner that's mining, they have to build tunnels, so they're using explosives to build these tunnels, and that's what the magma is basically doing. That's causing the earthquakes. So subsurface magma triggers earthquakes and causes ground deformation, as we're seeing it right now. It disrupts transformation, it damages infrastructure, and it complicates agricultural activities. Persistent ground movement, if that lasts for a longer period of time, it can lead to a long-term instability, making the area more challenging for residents and to manage and maintain. And again, I have to refer to Grindavik in Iceland again. If you want to learn more about this, we will see the next eruption probably mid-November till end of November. Magma chambers filling up again, the land is rising again. And it's dangerous. These cracks in the ground are dangerous because at any time they can get wider, they can get more open. And if you're, for example, underneath a paved road, you don't even see it because the pavement holds for a while and the crack might already be there. And then you drive over it and poof, like with sinkholes. And let's be clear, what we're seeing right now on the East African Rift is not normal. So historically, the East African Rift has seen episodes of volcanic activity, yes, but the frequency and the intensity of the recent earthquakes, along with this visible ground deformation, tells scientists that this is an unusual and potentially significant episode. Significant in the meaning of dangerous. So the seismic monitoring stations that they have in that region, the data that we're getting from these stations show that there is a significant uptick in earthquakes over the past few months, and including these big ones over 4.5, 4.7, 4.8. So this earthquake activity, together with these satellite pictures with the ground uplift with the land rise, that altogether is a strong indication that the rifting process in this area is currently very, very active in Ethiopia. So the movement of the magma within the crust is adding the pressure, and then we could see the eruption or the magma remains trapped underground. And both will lead to increased seismic instability. So now that we know the risks, we need, in my opinion, the international community, experts, help. They, I think, could or need to play a critical role in supporting Ethiopia during this period of heightened geological volcanic activity. I think they need increased funding for seismic and volcanic monitoring ASAP, as fast as possible. It's already too late. They need better data. They need to have early warning systems in place so that they detect the early warning signs that something is coming, that an eruption is coming, right? There are no resources for emergency preparedness. So other countries should provide resources so that they could help local communities to respond quickly to these natural hazards. Also, they need education programs that improve the public awareness and resilience. Then they need stronger communication networks that would allow authorities to quickly inform residents of new developments, such as we're seeing an earthquake swarms, we're seeing increased gas emissions. That could be critical for their safety and for their evacuation. Maybe help them by installing something like a widespread net of satellite internet, Starlink, right? So that people could be warned, especially in the agricultural communities. Because these people that live in the Awash region, Oromia and beyond, they live in an area that is shaped by this powerful geological force. And this is a challenge for them and also a testament to their resilience. We know that this East African rift has shaped the Ethiopian landscape for millions of years. This is nothing new. That's why there are these fertile valleys. There are unique ecosystems. And there are active volcanic features like the Fentale Volcano. So the future remains uncertain right now. But what they can do, what the worldwide community could do to help Ethiopia is to make sure that they have the resources that are needed to face whatever challenges might come. So I really think, guys, for us as a community, we're watching these volcanic eruptions, and Iceland has resources. They have a university, the University of Iceland, with expert scientists and the Met Office and all that, and they can deal with that much better. So I think as a community of this channel, our thoughts, I think I speak for you if I say that, our thoughts are with those affected in Ethiopia right now. And for those that are watching from Ethiopia, write us comments what we can do to make this more public, to create more awareness. So guys, share this video to whoever you know. Let's push it out in the algorithm that as many people as possible learn about this. I mean, the scientific community should know about that, I have no doubt. They don't need me to tell them. But why are they not there yet? Why don't we hear more? That's what surprises me. So we're hoping for the people that live in this affected area. We'll hope for their continued safety and stability in light of what Mother Nature might send towards them, the powerful forces that are happening there right now. I will keep you updated about this, guys. Thank you for watching. Stay safe wherever you are. And I want to say one more thing. We have become such a nice community. We're chatting with each other. And I have one member of my channel, such a loyal member of my channel, beautiful soul, and that is Butterfly. And she has gone through a very hard time recently, so that's her channel. Maybe you want to reach out to her and send her some love and prayers and some best wishes so that she's hopefully going to feel better. I think, we should reach out to each other and be there for each other in hard times. And I know we have, you know, I'm reporting about these disasters, about Hurricane Helene, about Milton, and I have viewers on this channel that have been directly affected by this and still are, and our hearts go out to them. And I think, you know, if you're in an area and you need more help or awareness, just leave us comments so that as a community, maybe we can do something. That's just what I wanted to say. So reach out to Butterfly. Butterfly, much love. We're thinking of you. We're with you. You'll get through this. Hope to see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.